What's up, everybody? And today we're checking out something different. This is called BlackRock, the conspiracies you don't know. I've been sent this video like a numerous amount of times. When I get sent something that is not in the genre that we usually do, which is at the moment it's military aircraft and ships, I'm always a little bit like, yeah, we'll see about that. But when you get sent something a few times by different people in a subject that you're not super knowledgeable on, you start to question, why should I be watching this video? And so I'm going to watch this video. It's called More Perfect Union. I don't know much about BlackRock. I've heard the name thrown around a couple of times, but this is going to be super interesting to learn about. Obviously, I'm giving my commentary throughout the whole thing. Let's learn, let's see what's going on and why this is some sort of conspiracy and figure out what the hell's going on with BlackRock. If you want to watch the original video without me waffling all over the top, please go over to their YouTube channel, More Perfect Union. I will leave a link down below to the original video. Go over there, give it a like, give it a subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm sure their videos are fantastic. So let's watch this. Let's break it down. Let's see what's going on. Before we get started, though, if you haven't already, check out Chug, 10% off, link down below, the best drinking vessel in the world. This thing's absolutely legend. If you want to look like an absolute legend while drinking your drink, especially this Christmas, get yourself this drink. Anyway, let's shut up. Let's pop this up. Let's see what the hell is going on with this BlackRock stuff.
I'm standing in front of the headquarters of a company that manages $10.6 trillion. That's more
Whoa!
than half the United States GDP.
Wait, did she say $10.6 trillion?
Manages $10.6 trillion. That's more than half the United States GDP. Last
Oh
time,
my
I covered
God.
the shady consulting group McKinsey, and you guys asked for one thing.
Yeah, it seems like everyone's talking about BlackRock, and maybe I'm a little bit behind on this thing. I just don't know much about I don't really know much about it.
BlackRock. So here we are. BlackRock is the subject of a lot of speculation online.
There is a robot that controls more wealth than any country on earth.
Really, the commander-in-chief is Larry Fink.
They have stock in 95% of Fortune 500 companies, and they've been hired by governments across the world to help manage financial crises and even just conduct normal operations. That means
So my presumption is they're just a financial institute that's grown incredibly powerful. My biggest thing is I wonder if they are somehow integrated with the military, especially the US military-industrial complex, which is massive. I'm sure they are. But from someone who was in the military, it makes me wonder, have they got their fingers in some of the pies of the military world?
means that pretty much any time you interact with the economy, working, buying stuff, driving a car, going to the bank, anything, you're interacting with BlackRock.
Whoa.
But that $10.6 trillion isn't really their money. Don't worry, we'll come back to that. And they claim they're just passive investors, which seems harmless, right? While I love a good conspiracy, and I know there was a cornucopia on the Fruit of the Loom logo, how much of a conspiracy is this really? I wanted to get to the truth behind BlackRock and the other nearly identical asset managers, State Street and Vanguard, known as the Big Three. Are they
Yeah, so I want to preface this. When people send me conspiracy videos to watch all the time, and we've watched a few of them in the past, and that's probably why I've been sent this. I've said this a few times on my channel. There are like fun conspiracies to believe in, and then there's dangerous conspiracies to believe in. Just be careful when you go down some of these rabbit holes. Believing in stuff like Bigfoot and UFOs and aliens and all that is fun stuff. But there are certain conspiracies that you can start looking at that are quite toxic and can be dangerous, not just for your mental health, but for the way that you see the world around you. So just bear that in mind when you see this stuff. And by the looks of it, this More Perfect Union is by the looks of it going to give a very good non-biased way of telling this. By the looks of it, it looks like they're doing it like in more like a news report way.
actively controlling the world and shaping it in their favor? Or are they passive investors just riding the wave of American economic expansion?
The
Stay with me.
classroom.
We'll get to the spooky stuff soon, but first let's talk through some finance basics that give BlackRock their power. What an asset manager actually does, the main product they provide, index funds, their favorite loophole, passivity, and their position in our economy, the not at all terrifying sounding universal ownership. BlackRock is an asset manager, and the service they offer is taking a customer's money and making more money out of it.
That seems very like harmless in a way. Like, yeah, we'll look after your money, we'll make more money with it, right? Like a lot of people do that. That's fine. My biggest thing is, how have I never heard of these people before? Like, how have I never heard of BlackRock before? Like, ever. Like, I feel like I've heard the word every now and again, but for the most part, like, I have no idea what it is until this video.
Their existence relies upon an important invention of the 70s.
This one bed's only $119.
More exciting, the index fund. It was pioneered by the first CEO of Vanguard, and it offers investors a way to invest in many stocks at once. So instead of betting a lot on a few individual companies, you bet a little bit on every company in the whole index. Basically just the whole market itself.
Yeah, I know about S&P 500. Like, I know about all that stuff already, so.
The index at least steers a steady course.
It's like instead of betting on a single horse, you're betting on all the horses at once. And index funds are a form of mutual fund, the more general way people pool their money together to make big investments. But someone needs to be the one to pool all that money together and manage it, and that's an asset manager, i.e. BlackRock. Index funds and ETFs are their main products, and they're
I never thought I'd be doing some sort of financial lessons on this channel, but here we are. No, I already know about some of this, like, financial, I don't know, financial knowledge already, like on what certain companies do in the S&P 500. I already know about all this stuff, which is good. I know some stuff, guys. Thank you.
pretty similar. They're popular because they're lower risk, have more consistent returns, and are cheaper for asset managers because they don't have to pay a guy to place bets all day, which studies show they are not very good at.
Just ignore the folly of short-term speculation. It's absolutely a loser's game.
So if the market is up 7% today, so is your index fund. Instead of constantly buying and selling shares, which is what active investors do, BlackRock and these big asset managers buy a little bit of every company and just hold on to those shares basically indefinitely.
Interesting.
This is called...
Have you seen, they showed a clip of the, let me go back a little bit. These rooms, like the investor places where it's just pure chaos. I cannot think of a worse job in the world. You can put me back in the Royal Marines than rather doing this stuff. Like being that busy and stressed about finances constantly. Oh, like it sounds disgusting, doesn't it? Like when they're all like shouting at each other, oh, this stock's up, this stock's down. Oh my God.
Buy a little bit of every company and just hold on to those shares basically indefinitely. This is called passive investing, a title that affords them a lot of legal leeway they otherwise wouldn't get.
Interesting.
They own so much that it would be impossible for them to sell out of any one stock in one fell swoop.
When you think about passive, we can't sell a company as long as they're in the index.
Most of the money asset managers manage comes from institutional investors. Those are big pension funds, insurance companies, nonprofits, and university endowments. But while all the money they manage is in the hands of these big institutions, most of it actually comes from regular people. Public and private pension plans, 401k owners, college tuition, and anyone with insurance.
I have a feeling I know where this video is going to go. I think the conclusion that's going to be made of this, and it's because I just have a different way of looking at the world where I don't think everything's a conspiracy. My presumption is this business, this BlackRock, has got so big that inevitably when you are so big and you have so much money involved, conspiracies are made about it. Like, it's just inevitable. Like, I don't know if there is, but I guarantee there's conspiracies about Apple. There's conspiracies about anything Elon Musk's doing. There's probably conspiracies about Jeff Bezos. When you get to a certain prestige when it comes to money, whether it's a company or an individual, there just seems to be a desire to create conspiracies to make these people make it out as if they're doing something nasty or wrong to make the money that they're making. I'm not saying that they do the right things to make the money. I'm just saying that conspiracies just sprout up around things that are well known. And so my presumption is this is a finance company that's probably done some dirty stuff here and there. Don't quote me, maybe. And because of that, a bunch of conspiracies have come out about them. That's my prediction for this video, guys.
This is your money, but it doesn't always come back to you. Nor do you get a say in the companies it gets invested in. While they want good returns on those investments, contrary to how we think about Wolf of Wall Street type investors, that's not actually their main goal. They make their profits from the fees they charge their clients, not from the returns on the money they invest. I spoke with Benjamin Braun, a professor of political economy at the London School of Economics. He's written a bunch of studies on asset managers' role in our economy and society.
The fees you earn if you're BlackRock increase when the market value of the assets you manage increases. You maximize your assets under management by winning over new clients and by getting the clients that you already have to give you more money.
When you have 10 trillion...
It's so bizarre. There's a lot of people that absolutely love this world of finance. And I will stand by a statement I've said a few times on this channel that a lot of people who are rich, I've said this a long time on some of my other videos, but a lot of people who are rich, they're not necessarily just incredibly smart people. They're just very good at getting rich, right? It's like footballers. Like, they might be amazing footballers, but they might not be very good at anything else. Like, I think that's the way I see a lot of rich people. And yeah, there's obviously rich people that are smart in general. But, like, they're just very good at shifting money around to make more money. That's just the skill they have.
$1 million, you have to put them somewhere, and eventually that somewhere becomes everywhere.
Universal ownership refers to holding shares in the entire universe of firms listed on the stock market. The big three asset managers, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, hold a sizable but still relatively small stake in all listed corporations.
BlackRock is a 3 to 10% shareholder in all of these companies.
Whoa! It owns that much shares in all of them companies? Oh my god. No wonder they have so much money. That is crazy. 7.17% of Google? And oh my god. No wonder they're absolutely loaded.
This may not sound like a lot, but it's enough that selling all of it at once would likely crash that entire stock, kind of locking them into the whole not selling passive thing.
5% in any individual company is actually very significant because if an
Wait, they own 74.77% of, is that NVDA? What's NVDA? Is it NVIDIA? NVIDIA? Surely not. Because that's a big percentage.
when shareholdership is dispersed, 5% makes you, in all likelihood, the single largest shareholder in that company. That's why, for example, in a lot of academic studies, 5% is taken as a threshold for control. There's almost no difference between Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, and even a bunch of other asset managers in terms of their business model. So then you can start and wonder, okay, so if the big three together hold 25% of the shares in any individual company, then you're definitely above the threshold.
Yeah.
Let's zoom in on Amazon. The big three own 16% of all outstanding Amazon shares. Jeff Bezos only owns 9%.
Wow.
In theory, universal owners.
Wait, Jeff Bezos only owns 9% of it? I didn't know that. I did not know that, and he's that rich. Just goes to show how much money Amazon makes, that Bezos only owns 9% of shares, and yet he has that much money. Now look at BlackRock. Yes, it's not 9%, it's 5.8%, but look at all the other companies they're involved with as well. Oh my days. That is, you can't even comprehend that much money, can you?
Should have an interest in maximizing profits in the long term across the entire economy. And that is not how they operate in practice.
The amount of stock you have determines the number of votes you get. BlackRock is almost always in the top 3, maybe 5 if they're feeling broke. So that is a lot of votes.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, it's not BlackRock's money that's invested. It's your dad's pension fund and your insurer's massive pile of savings. It sounds crazy, but when you put your money in a pension fund, you sign away your voting rights to the pension fund manager.
Wow.
And then when the pension fund manager puts all their pension funds under an asset manager's control, they sign away all those votes to the asset manager.
It's just, it's digits on a screen that have been shuffled around to make this company worth as much as it is. In my head, this just seems like completely made up stuff that people have found loopholes to just give themselves more wealth and use your money to fund it. Wow.
Kind of pyramid scheme vibes.
Yeah, very
and how
pyramid
do they
scheme
actually
vibes.
use those votes? A 2017 study found that asset managers almost always voted with what the company executives recommended. And why are they always voting with company management? Back in the 80s, company managers used to spend company money on company things, like corporate jets, fancy offices, or occasionally paying their employees. And this made the investors
That was a nice little dig they put in there, and it occasionally paying employees.
sad because they wanted those profits. So they started offering company managers, in addition to bonuses and benefits, stock options. Executives' total pay was now forever tied to how much the company made.
They can push managers, corporate managers, to act more in the interest of shareholders, meaning in the interest of corporate profits, and do more to maximize corporate profits.
Wow.
This funnels money back to investors who now include management and away from any hope of making companies work better or including employees in the profits that their labor created.
So it's almost as if they're blackmailing them, in a way, financially blackmailing them to be like, this is a massive incentive that you don't want to miss out on. And if you do, it's bad for everyone, including yourself.
Back in the day,
Like holding them
my
ransom.
grandparents' day, more regular people had stocks, and the idea was that every shareholder could vote on things like board elections, mergers and acquisitions, executive compensation, and once in a while, wages. Sort of like democracy for people with disposable income.
Government is the people's business, and every man, woman, and child becomes a shareholder with the first penny of tax paid.
In 1945, 94% of stocks were owned by households. But that's not really how it works anymore.
Oh my
Today,
God.
households have more like 40% of the stock market, and about half of that belongs to the top 10%.
Wow. It does go to show that over the past like 50, 60, 70 years, the money shift is just crazy, isn't it? The shift of wealth is going in a way where there will be zero middle class. I traveled all around America in the school bus. I was in the school bus for 2 years traveling around America. It was amazing. And the biggest disparity I saw between living standards was in California, where you were either in a tent on the side of the road or driving a Tesla. There was barely any in between. There was fewer people in between than there was in any of the other areas. Tent on the side of the road, homeless, rich as hell driving a Tesla. And that is mental. That's insane.
Today, the top 1% own 50% of corporate equity and mutual fund shares, while the top 10% own 86%. Did you think this yellow part was everyone else? Nope. The tiny green part on the bottom is the least wealthy half of Americans.
Wow.
You often hear this argument that what is good for shareholders is good for everyone because, especially in the US, where retirement assets are overwhelmingly invested in corporate equities, everyone is a shareholder. But that's simply not true. The bottom 50% virtually owns no shares at all. The vast majority of shares are held by the top 10%, and within that, even shareholdings are quite concentrated within the top 1%.
That's crazy.
And while the strategies corporations choose,
That's absolutely crazy, isn't it? The difference between the two areas, and it's the bottom 50% of the population.
because asset managers vote for them, affect everyone. They only benefit half the population even a little bit and frequently hurt the other half, those without any shares at all. Take the example of worker pay. BlackRock and other asset managers play a huge part in wage stagnation.
If you're a corporation, you can increase profits only in so many ways, and you can always, in the short term, increase returns to shareholders by squeezing workers.
So this kind of uber monopolization really hurts working people, consumers, and even small businesses.
Yeah, because it's in their incentive to maximize profits and not give any promotions whatsoever. Of course that's the case. Wow, that's actually soul destroying. This has gone from what I thought was a conspiracy video to just being incredibly depressed about how much money and influence this company has on the economy and the world in general.
And this is where it gets interesting. There's evidence that this type of universal ownership is in part responsible for why everything is so expensive these days. For example, they have significant stakes in Nike, Adidas, Lululemon, and Under Armour. If one outperforms the other, it's the same from BlackRock's point of view. And sometimes it can even lose investors' money altogether if companies were to start lowering prices to compete.
That's the universal ownership logic in action, but it's also an anti-competitive logic in action. The fact that all 5 airlines, all the major banks, for example, in the US have the same large shareholders creates a danger and a risk that these corporations will not engage in competition in the same way they would if they each had different shareholders.
It's like, do you know how there's a law against big company mergers, like merging companies together? I forgot what it's called, but it's to prevent like one company having sole ownership over a whole type of thing, right? So it's like, imagine if all of the flight industry, all these different flying companies all merged into one. That would be considered illegal because it would ruin everything because there'd be no competition and all that lot, right? It's almost as if they found a way around that to still own all these companies, but not be in trouble because they don't own all the stocks, and therefore it's not a giant merger in any way. But they're still able to have an influence and don't really care if one competes with the other because they own shares in everything anyway. That's crazy. They've basically just found a cheat code. That's what they've done.
Because in that world, each shareholder would root for their company and would hope to outperform the market by the company they waged a bet on.
It's sort of like a neo-monopoly where companies don't even have to merge and buy each other.
That's literally what I just said. That's so weird. It's a monopoly. That's the word I was looking for. It's like a monopoly where they don't have to go through the regular route of having a monopoly and get in trouble for it. They can just do it by cheating.
Anymore because they all send profits to the same guys no matter what. And
Literally
their
what
large
just-
stakes in basically every company affords them friends in high places.
Yeah.
From just 2014 to 2015, BlackRock performed over 1,500 private engagements with the companies held in their portfolio. BlackRock reportedly believes that meetings behind closed doors can go further than votes against management, and they typically give management a year before voting against them. They also
Wow.
have a lot of friends in the government.
Of course they have friends in government. Of course politics is going to get involved with this, innit? This is where the conspiracy is going to get in. Not only are they doing all this weird cheating stuff, but with the politics, I guarantee there is a crap ton of lobbying, which I swear to God, lobbying should be illegal. It should be. The fact that it's not is crazy. I guarantee it's something here with lobbying. I guarantee it.
There's a sort of revolving door between BlackRock, the government, and the international bodies that create monetary policy. Things like the US Treasury, Federal Reserve, the central banks of Canada, some European countries, and Sweden, as well as the International Monetary Fund and the World Economic Forum.
Oh my God.
Since 2004, BlackRock has hired at least 84 former government officials, regulators, and central bankers worldwide.
The intersection of politics and business has never been more ongoing.
Larry Fink himself is on the board of the WEF and even tried to get himself selected as Hillary Clinton's Treasury Secretary in 2016.
What? How is this allowed? Like, why is no one stopping this? Like, they're basically taking over. They're basically buying everything, taking over. But they've bought politicians.
And in 2008, they got themselves a pretty sweet deal.
Traders saying this is the craziest day they have ever seen in these markets. Veteran traders saying they've never seen anything like it.
In the aftermath, the government created the Financial Stability Oversight Council to oversee entities like BlackRock that control a lot of money but aren't banks. The FSOC pointed to BlackRock as an organization that's so big that its failure could cause another collapse, and tried to put additional oversight on them. But BlackRock doubled their political lobbying spending, including running a super targeted ad campaign on the DC Metro, and managed to dodge the oversight that other large financial institutions receive.
Wow. Wow. So they literally, they control everything. Propaganda, they control the politics, they can weasel the way out of being held accountable. Wow, this company has way too much power.
And let's come back to that loophole they like to call passivity. The people who decide if they're passive enough to continue not to be overseen by the government is BlackRock themselves. Basically, BlackRock and other asset managers have to submit annual letters to self-certify that they've been compliant with the terms of passive investment. That's like being allowed to write whatever you want on your taxes and then audit yourself.
Yeah.
Except if you also had $10 trillion, which, unless you're watching this and you're literally Larry Fink, hey bestie, I'm gonna safely assume you don't.
Yes. Yeah.
What really blows my mind is that while this one company already has their eggs in basically every basket and is making money off seemingly everyone, it goes even deeper than that.
Oh, great. Wonderful. Great. I'm glad it gets more creepy and deeper than that, which is already creepy and deep.
The biggest investors in BlackRock are Vanguard and State Street. And the biggest investors in Vanguard are BlackRock and State Street. And the biggest investors in State Street are, you guessed it, BlackRock and Vanguard.
So it's a loop. It's a loop that they've created, a money loop.
Asset managers or the shareholders of asset managers. And this is true for all financial firms, and not only, in fact, for stock market listed firms, but private equity firms buying up private insurers.
So the financial sector effectively owns itself.
Yeah.
The biggest companies that they own them back, creating this loop that sucks money in and never seems to spit it back.
It's a money loop. That's crazy. That's so mental. How have we got to this point, guys? What are we doing? What are we doing?
Out. They play all sides of the game because at a certain point, you can't lose when you play against yourself.
It's true.
So going back to our original questions, does BlackRock own everything? No. But do they control everything? Kinda.
Pretty much.
They profit off of every bit of your life while controlling just the minimum amount they need to make sure they can continue profiting off of every bit of your life. And
this just makes me just want to sell everything and go and live in the woods and never speak to society again and completely disconnect from the modern world. But I can't do that because if I wanted to live in the woods, I'd have to buy land. And if I bought land, some money in some way would go to BlackRock. I just want to I want to be alone. I want to be like Tom Bombadil, a hobbit. I want to be a hobbit living in a hobbit hole. And all I want to care about is being with friends and food. Food that I grow myself and I don't have to talk to society. And I don't have to keep having to deal with knowing that there are these weird private companies that act like independent governments that look after themselves and no one else.
they get paid by teachers' retirement funds to do it. And they get away with this by constantly exchanging money for power and utilizing legal loopholes.
Wow.
It's worth being pedantic here for a second. They don't own everything. They own shares in everything, which gives them an outsized amount of control. So while they're not necessarily the ones making all the nitty-gritty decisions in every company, it is their influence and this giant structure of universal ownership that continues to make their pie bigger and ours smaller.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate endgame of the Investor Management Alliance. Remember the part about how they're responsible for reporting their own passivity to the government? The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the FDIC are working to change that and make it so that asset managers that own large chunks of banks like BlackRock are regulated like banks.
Are they going to be, though? Is it going to happen? Has the wealth already been distributed in such a way where it doesn't matter what the government does anymore? They're going to be untouchable? Because that's how it feels, doesn't it?
The asset managers, of course, are not happy, and they are lobbying against this. So regulating them much further is going to prove difficult. And this is a solution to one part of a much larger problem. We no longer have the old system of shareholder democracy. We have something more like a shareholder oligarchy where the people with the most power over where our money and stuff goes are incentivized to make that stuff worse and more expensive and not work for us.
They basically control the economy.
But BlackRock didn't create this system, they just used it to their advantage.
Yeah.
And I think we deserve a better one, where the people who create the wealth have a say in where it goes.
That's true.
Thanks for watching the classroom.
Preach. Preach. What's her name? Gabriella. Preach, Gabriella.
Controlling the world is important to us. Send us your next favorite conspiracy.
What a great video. That might be one of the best videos I've watched on this channel in a very long time. Link below is called More Perfect Union. Let me pull up their channel real quick. They've got some incredible videos by the looks of it. How John Deere robs farmers of $4 billion a year. What? Oh, there's some good videos in here. I'm probably going to go down the rabbit hole of watching a bunch of their videos. Link down below. Go and check out their channel. Absolutely fantastic. I didn't expect that video to be what it is. When people have sent me like conspiracy videos before, and I've watched like, what, Wendigoon and stuff like that, and it's always like cryptids and all this other stuff, which is almost fantastical in a way and kind of fun. But then you see something like this that's a conspiracy that's grounded in reality with finances, and it just makes you sad. like there's no like, oh, I might see Bigfoot because I believe in a conspiracy. This just makes you sad. That's what it does. But it's also information that we need to know so that we can go ahead and try and do something about this in the future. Which, is it beyond is it beyond being able to be changed now? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Check out Chug. 10% off link down below if you want one of them as well. Other than that, that's it. I'm going to go and just sit there and think about this for a while now. I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.